Hey, what is up, everybody? You are listening to I Want to Know, where we answer all your burning questions on the Bible and Christian living. I'm one of your hosts, Rudo, and I'm joined here by my awesome co-hosts, Neil and Mamiela.
Yeah, so we've received a few questions around breakups and rejection, and we're going to work in that direction today.
All right, guys, let's get this started. Mjolo, Mjolo's nice. Dating is nice. It's beautiful. It's twinkle, twinkle, little stars, butterflies in your stomach. But sometimes it comes to an end. Let's be real. Or sometimes you spot someone and, man, they look good, and you're like, Lord, that's my rib, or, my rib belongs there, and you shoot your shot, and they hold right there. It's a reality, right? Sometimes you feel bad about it, and I don't know. So, what's the right way to let a person down in a relational sector or in a friendship? Let's say they want to relate with you, and you just don't feel like they need to be in your life. What's the right way to let them down?
Must I go?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Look, I think I'm going to go back to principles again, because that's what I do. But I think we always have to remember that people are valuable. They're made in the image of God. And so, the harsh brush off and telling them, how sick and sorry they are for even thinking of dreaming of asking you, I don't think that's a fair way to treat anybody.
Yeah.
So I think always you have to value the person, you have to be respectful, but you need to be honest.
Yeah.
So, if someone's approaching you and going, hey, or whatever people say these days, I think it's just really to be respectful and honest and say, well, I don't know you well enough. And maybe if they look relatively interesting, you can say, well, let's get to know each other, or actually, sorry, I'm not there right now.
Yeah.
You can always blame it on your dad. My dad said I'm not allowed to date. I think that's a good one. My daughter and I have that agreement till she's 30.
Whoa, 30.
No, I just told her. She believes me still, so it's fine. But I think as long as you treat people with dignity and respect and you're honest.
Yeah.
You don't have to take them out. You can just say, thank you, I'm flattered, or, wow, I'm surprised, or what's your name again? But no, I don't see that now.
Yeah.
So I think dignity, respect, and honesty are
Wow.
important principles for me in the thing. I don't know what you guys think.
Rudo?
I was thinking of it from a perspective of the person and you're already friends, and maybe they develop feelings for you, and you're close friends already. So I think that you might think that being in a relationship might ruin that for the friendship. So it's harder in that kind of situation, because you're friends and you don't want to make it weird now because you didn't want to be with them in a relationship. So I don't know, I want to ask that, how would you do it if you were friends with the person and you don't want to ruin the friendship or make it weird by saying, you can't say yes, but saying no is also just bad.
That is actually a good question, because I've experienced that as well. When you're really close friends with a girl and you spend a lot of time together, and time plus vulnerability equals a tie of some sort, and you want to make that transition, and there's always that fear of, if we jump and it doesn't work, we lose the relationship and the friendship.
Yeah.
Right? But if it works, it's really going to work. And how to do that is quite tough. But one of the things I'm also struggling with is our generation is not face-to-face anymore. It's very digital. And when it's digital, it's easy to reject someone because it's block. Or, it's or they call it mice or ghosting, where you just don't text a person and it's just awkward. And so I'm really struggling with because that question really comes to the nub of how to reject a person properly. I think face to face really, really matters. Telling me face to face, listen, I don't think this is going to work, because I think text is cowardly.
Yeah. So I think it goes both ways. If you're going to ask, do it in person.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say no, do it in person. And if you don't know when the person asks, then say them. I think you must create space and say, look, I need to think about it. I need to pray about it. I need to talk to my folks about it. What's your name again? That kind of thing. And to because I think you always feel pressure to answer immediately. So maybe just to say, give me some time to think about it and pray about it, or talk to friends about it.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, in person for sure. And I don't think you don't end things by text as well.
Yeah.
If you're going to end it, you man up or woman up, and you do it in person, I would say. I do think it's true, though, that when you've shared feelings, the nature of a friendship will change.
Yeah.
And so that's why I always, one of the earlier posts, I said, a guy doesn't go to a girl and say, God said. Once you've shared feelings, it is going to change the nature of the friendship. And so I think you need to be quite brave and quite clear that you want to share the feelings now, because it will change the nature. And I think it's very difficult for it to go back to just the friendship after you've shared feelings. So it's a bit of risk and reward that you've got to
definitely
be mindful of. Yeah.
Neil, I got a question for you specifically. Because I've seen this a lot. Do you think that Christians use God as a scapegoat when it comes to rejection, when it comes to ending things? Especially when they're not happy in an environment and they say, I feel my season is up. Yeah. And God's like, I have nothing to do with this. This is all on you. Yeah. Do we use God as a scapegoat sometimes?
Yeah, I think we blame Jesus for a whole lot of things. Look, I think if God's really spoken to you, and you can say that with integrity, then you can say, but it's always difficult for me in any relationship when you pull the God said card on anything, even in a marriage. If my wife comes to me and says, God says, I'm going to go, really? It's because it's just, it's heavy. It's like God. So I think if God has spoken to you, you don't even have to necessarily say that in the conversation. You just say, look, I really think it's time to end this. Or no, this is not something we should get into. I have prayerfully considered it. But it's your choice, because that's always the thing. God lets you choose too, and sometimes that's helpful, and sometimes it's like super scary. So I don't think you must blame God, not easily, unless you're super keen and God wrote on a wall and you can go and show the person. So I'd be reluctant to do that, but I would involve God in the decision-making process for sure.
Wow.
Best I can do with that one.
All right, so the next one. How do you handle rejection? Have you been rejected? I guess the first question is, have you been rejected and how did you handle it? I'll go first.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll go first. So in high school, I was, when you're coming up, the dating game, it's fun. It's like a chess game. You shoot your shot. She says yes, she says no. And there was a time where I shot my shot with this girl. And man, it went great. Fantastic. She said yes, we dated. It was on the backdrop of a really good friendship. And then it lasted 4 months. All right. And then, you guys know how it goes. Look, Mamela, we need to talk. Women, when you say that to a guy, I'll run through my whole catalog. What did I do? What did I say? How did I say it? What was my tone? What was my text? What was the context? Was it the Hebrew? I run through it all. And we got there, and the girl's like, listen, I don't think we should be together anymore. I can't even remember what the reasons were. But I slumped into a very, very deep depression that I didn't know before. And it was very weird because we only dated 4 months. I was a young guy. I was fresh into varsity first year. But I didn't handle it well, to the point where after like 2 years, this thing was kind of still bugging me. Like, when you think of her face, you're like, I hope she's well. But yeah, wow, just Lord. So that dealing with a breakup or handling rejection, it's tricky because sometimes it triggers some things, especially in your childhood. So how do we handle rejection?
Damn.
Or are you looking all at me again?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I think any kind of rejection we get in our lives, the baseline response is you have to forgive. But now, particularly in the area of romantic relationships and friendships, because you've invested something of yourself in it. If it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, like dating, obviously then you've invested feelings and emotions, and maybe you've shared hopes and dreams. So the rejection is much worse, and it feels much bigger. I probably think we could even use the word betrayal. Feels deeper, particularly if you've invested a couple of years of your life into it, speaking from experience, into these spaces. So, but it starts with forgiving, and basically you just keep forgiving until you feel like you can release the person. But I also think then there's places where you can go for prayer with friends or trusted leaders and say, look, I got hurt and I need some prayer. But ultimately, you forgive, you can get prayer, but the one who comforts you is God.
Yeah.
I think because only God can speak to some places in our hearts and in our lives. And so, I've had my heart significantly broken twice in my life. I think I did it better the second time than the first time, but sometimes you've got to just go and hold your heart before God and say, God, it's metaphorically, obviously, my heart's shredded. Won't you just come and heal me? Yeah. And you keep your heart before God, and you just ask him to come and comfort you and come and heal you. It's interesting that one of the names in the Bible for the Holy Spirit is the Comforter.
Wow.
And so I've prayed that prayer and said, Holy Spirit, you need to come comfort me now. Particularly in this. But remember, you can get rejected in a relationship that doesn't end as well.
Explain that. How does that work?
Well, look, sometimes let's use marriage. And I know we've spoken about marriage. But sometimes in marriage, your spouse might do something that makes you feel rejected. But, you're committed. So what do? You can't...
Yeah.
You're not leaving.
Yeah.
So then you have to forgive, and you have to ask the Lord to comfort you, and then you have to work it out. And you have to go, when you did that, or when you said that, this is the effect it had on me. That, by the way, magic phrase. When you did that, this is how it made me feel. If you always go, you always, or you did, it's aggressive. So but when you did that, this is how it made me feel. Can we talk about it? Because it can happen. I know, in marriage even you can get rejected or feel rejected. But that doesn't mean it's over. It means you've got to forgive, get comfort, and talk it through. Wow. I think in a friendship or like a romantic relationship, like dating or something, then when it's over, it's over.
Ish.
So I would say you kind of need to respect the person's wishes as well in the process.
Wow.
It doesn't look so good if you go, are you sure? You can probably ask once or something like that, I think. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. But forgiveness is God's answer to rejection, and then comfort. Ask God to comfort you.
Wow. Rito, you're in high school. You're in high school, fam. Let's get real. All right? And you're not the ugliest person in the world. You're very pretty. I'm sure guys shoot their shots all the time. And I'm sure there was at some point where you were like, man, he's kind of cute. I don't know. And something didn't pop off, or he just didn't reciprocate. How do you handle it? Do you just dust yourself off and move along, or block him?
I've never blocked anyone, but well, I'm being serious. Like, I really have. No, it's just I don't see the point. Like, you'll probably see the person again in real life, and they'll just like be sour to you because you blocked them and you like lost that relationship now, just because they like that, because you didn't want to say no to them. Like, that's, like you said, cowardly. Like, you're just avoiding something that's gonna come back to you most probably as well. But I never shoot my shot, mostly because I don't like wanna get into that kind of situation as I like right now as a teenager. But for the people that do, you gotta know what your heart needs before you because you might not be like mentally or like prepared for a rejection. So and it takes a lot of bravery, especially if you're in a like friendship. It takes a lot of like bravery to now try and share your feelings with that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel for those people, because
the people that shoot their shot.
Yeah, because like it's a scary thing. Even the thought of me doing it, like I couldn't.
It's tough being a guy. It's tough being a guy. I agree with you, Rito.
Yeah, no, like yeah, it's tough. But like sometimes, like I ask my friends about how they reject or how they would take rejection, and a lot of them said that they would just distance themselves from that person and like not talk to them, and now like lose that relationship because they just didn't they didn't want to say no. So it's the same as like, and this is in person, not even just blocking them. Like they could fully just like distance themselves and never talk to that person again and lose that entire friendship or whatever.
So get the message, by the way I'm treating you, kind of thing.
Yeah, like they just they don't talk to each other, and they just like they just never like they don't ever return to the place they were in, like in the beginning, just because this person, out of bravery and like boldness, asked them if they would like want to become like boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, or become friends or anything like that. I think that's crazy. Like personally, that I can't see myself ever doing that to someone, because it's super harsh in my opinion. Like that person is a person. They have feelings. That might affect them in like a way that you couldn't possibly see or understand. So I mean, yeah.
What do you think about the distancing thing, Neil?
Yeah,
I think it's disrespectful, and maybe I'm old-fashioned, but it's that thing I said at the beginning. If people are valuable and they're made in, just on the minimum, they're made in God's image, I think just to have the courtesy to say, look, I understand how much this took. I've never been that brave, but sorry, no. Rather just communicate openly and honestly, because people are worth it.
Yeah.
And then it might have the same effect, I guess.
Yeah.
But at least there's a communication channel that you've been respectful enough to honor the person to reply or to respond verbally.
Yeah.
And in person, as we said earlier. Yeah, I think so.
That is so good. Well, we've got a person that sent a question to us, and we're gonna read it now. We haven't read this question, so this is the first time we're reading it. Do I mention the name or do I just read the question? Okay, I'll just read the question. I'm in grade 8. I met new friends, and we became close. Right? We loved each other, stood up for each other, and sacrificed for each other. Hectic. We were there. We were the cool kids in the grade. What's a cool kid?
The like ones everybody knows.
Ah.
I guess.
Okay, we were the cool kids in our grade. We'd break the rules together, and everyone feared us. In grade 10, I decided to start taking my life seriously. Oh snap! I got saved in the same year and became a prefect. Oh boy! I thought my friends would still be there to support me, but all left and I was all alone. I can never get over the pain.
Wow.
That's
Now
that there's a whole lot of elements.
That's betrayal.
Yeah, that's
It's betrayal. Yeah. So maybe let me say this. Yes, you can get over the pain, because God can heal the pain. Maybe you'll always remember it, and it'll always be a bit of like a ding in your heart. But God can heal you, and God can help you get over the pain. So yeah, healing is possible if you allow God into that space. So one, invite God in to heal you, but you have to. It starts by forgiving, as I said earlier. And I think that it's true. I had a similar experience at school when I really started serving God. There's just people who kind of ignore you or don't talk to you, or you don't fit there, or even just simply there's certain conversations you don't want to be part of. You're in a group and a conversation heads in a direction, and either time to stop it or leave. And so, and I don't mean to be crass on this, but then, find better friends.
yeah.
Get involved at a church group or a youth group where there are people that, at least, we shared about this in the beginning, have similar values, and build friendships with people that have got similar values.
Wow.
But you got to start from fresh. That's hard yards. Yeah.
Can I just ask, like with that, like you can't see yourself in that kind of friend group, and you need to like find new friends and that have the same values as you. But then a lot of the time, like the old friends get offended because you thought they like, because like they think of it as like, nah, I don't want to be friends with you.
You're rejecting them.
Yeah, like you're rejecting them and like finding a new group. Like, how do you, like, should you consider that as like should you care about that? Because I mean, you are doing something that's good for you, but it also hurts the other people that like.
So I think you should care because they're people.
Yeah.
But if you've been good friends and you can just come in and you say, guys, look, I know what we're about, but it's me. And I need a change and I need to move and, do your best to not take it personally. I still like you. I still love you. If you can say that honestly.
It's not you, it's me.
It's a bit of that. It's a bit of that line, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know of people that have taken their stand for God, and then in their school they had no friends. They were kind of the loner at break times, and it gets awkward. But they had other friendships at their churches or their youth groups that were able to sustain them as well. But you still have to treat people with respect. It's still important.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's strange because there's a lot of elements at play here because there's this rejection that is triggered by elevation, right? So, and I've seen this a lot in the black community specifically, when you get a good job and you get a nice house.
Or you become a prefect.
Yeah, they're like,
Okay,
ooh,
okay.
you think you're better.
Yeah.
And that message it's communicated without anyone having said anything. And you wanting better for yourself, therefore becomes offensive. And it's hard because then you have to try and, because you can't exactly be like, you get better for yourself too. You can't force them to want to. So it's a tough one. For me, I've realized that there's some friendships and some seasons that it just has to end. There's that transitional element if I want to continue. But I know there's a lot of Christian people that struggle with that have been, for example, in a relationship. They've been drinking, drugs, having sex, you name it. And they want to now change. But the change means letting go of their support system that was a support system. And that gap between not having them and finding a new support system is a hard one to be in. So I really don't know.
And I think we need to be honest about that. That is hard. But you got to do what you know is, true and right.
Yeah.
And you got to take that and really trust God. I know many stories where God provides new friends then.
Yeah.
It might take a while, but I think it's important, it's necessary. But I think also you mentioned that idea of elevation. If you remain just who you were, you stay true to who you were, your real friends will come around. I think that too.
Yeah.
I think that's true as well.
That is so good. Let's go to the next question.
Is it one of those, or do you want to play one of the voice notes?
One of these?
Oh, I think so.
Let's go another one.
Okay.
Oh snap! Relationships, Mjolo. That's a pandemic on its own. I dated a girl in grade 8. Grade 8's date?
I'm actually
let's start there. Grade 8's date? Man, I don't know.
Stop being so old-fashioned.
Grade 8. When I was grade 8, I was still kind of scared of girls, but okay. And we later broke up because she was moving to a different city. Understandable. Later in grade 12, during the pandemic, we reconnected and got back together. Oh, so from grade 8, they started something, grade 12, they got back. Okay, that's stamina there, that's longevity. We got back together later in grade 12. During the pandemic, we were reconnected. It became a long-distance relationship. On our birthdays, we surprised each other with wonderful gifts. Grade 12s have mine, yeah? I was sure that she was the love of my life because our mothers really knew how much we loved each other. After matric results came out, we went to different study institutions. I started feeling unwanted, long distance, but I chose not to believe it. The things we choose not to believe. That's a preach right there, but this is a podcast. She stopped answering my calls, and she hardly texted back. Eventually, I asked her if she still wants to be with me, and she said she doesn't think so. And this represents our generation in full when it comes to relationships. We don't break up with each other, we just ghost and wait for the other person to be like, are we still or are we not? I don't think we are.
Yeah, I'm sounding like a stuck record now. But it's have the respect for the person to speak to them and then forgive and ask God to heal you, man.
Wow.
I'm going to stick to that. That's my answer, and I'm holding to it.
No, I agree, because like it's so unfair to just leave the person hanging and wait until they realize that this is not a thing anymore. Like,
But she said she chose not to believe it. What? I started to feel unwanted and I chose not to believe it. And there are some things that we see, but we just choose not to see. Like red flags, like I can see that this long distance relationship is not working, but we stay. And stay because you kind of hope that's there. And I don't know, doesn't that point to self-love as well?
And I think, look, some of it's probably a bit of a defense mechanism because you know the pain's coming and you're not ready to face the pain. But sometimes I think we just got to also become to a place where we're honest with ourselves and go, I'm noticing this. But I would also say in this, rather ask than wonder. I think that in any friendship, in any relationship, if you're wondering, rather ask. And then the friendship will hold the test of it or it won't. So, I know, why lie every night for a month wondering and not falling asleep and stressed? Just ask. And maybe it opens the door to some pain. But rather walk through it and then your whole life is on hold for however long. But the pain is real. We mustn't minimize that. But there can be comfort for the pain.
All right, let's move on. Friendship breakups. Wait, let me producer my flattery's bad here.
That's your flattery's bad.
Did you just hear yourself?
Yeah, I'm laughing.
She just said her flattery's bad.
Oh, wow.
you said that.
You did it.
I just repeated what she just said.
Oh,
You guys missed it. Never mind.
Okay.
She said that. Let me try and play this voice note. Let's see if it works. Right.
I remember in grade 6 or 7, probably 6, I grew a group of friends, right, with Lucas, and then one left us for like other people. The other one also left us with the other one, like 2 left, and then it was just the 3 of us. And then from the 3, both of them jikalaed me, which I don't know if you know what that means, but like they turned their backs on me, and then I was basically like left out of, we're leaving each other, whatever. So then I became friends with another person who like was one of the greatest friends I've ever had. Like she really rescued me from a time of loneliness, and like we really grew close, and like she was so nice. Like I just really enjoyed that friendship. But like it really made me feel that's probably where my trust issues come from in life in general. Like that moment, it really just left me like shattered. Like it just was crazy for me how like people could say one day that they love you and then the next day they just betray you like that. Like,
Sure. But I mean, that's real. It happens. But there's probably 2 things to say there. The one is this idea of trust that was raised. I think it's important always in a relationship, whether it's friendship or romantic, to be very clear how far you're committed. Now, I know this, I'm going to try this camera, is that okay? But let's use romantic. He likes her, she likes him. Let's go out together. And so you kind of lean in a little bit. But what sometimes happens is one or the other might like lean all the way in and the other one's still here. And the only way, and then like they go, well, I was just checking you out, and like you talking about picking wedding gifts. I'm out. And then this one just goes, face plant. Yeah. So it's always important in the thing to communicate. And I think when you're a teenager, this is much harder than if you're a 20-something. It's hard for 20-somethings. I mean, it's hard for everybody at any stage. But rather just go, I like you now, I like you too. Let's hang out. Sure, let's hang out. Particularly when a guy says let's hang out, he doesn't mean let's get married. Just from anecdotal experience that I've heard that, okay?
Yeah.
So stick to, mean what you say and say what you mean. And if it gets a little bit more, then you go, look, I'm really interested in spending more time. Yes, let's spend more time. Does it sound like a corny conversation? Yes. But you're guarding your heart and you're guarding the other person's heart. Because remember, they're valuable. So trust is also built by talking to each other, not assuming. And maybe you like, this is the one, I'm marrying them. And then you go, hey, can we go for coffee? But you already 50 steps down the line. So you have to hold your heart in place and your emotions, men or women. You have to hold it in place to what's real and what's actually happening. other interesting thing about trust, and I know we always say trust is earned, and it's true. But before trust is earned, trust is given.
Yeah.
When you get into a taxi, or a taxi, you're already giving trust to the driver that they can get you from A to B alive. Okay, so you always give trust a little bit. Now, when that guy drives and he does well, then they've earned trust.
Yeah.
So in a friendship, you are giving trust, but you don't give this much trust if the friendship's here.
Sure,
The deeper the friendship goes, the more trust you give. That's why when you've invested in a friendship or a romantic relationship and you're in, that's why it really hurts, because you've really given trust and they've earned trust to that point. But you only invest the trust that's appropriate for the level of friendship or relationship. So that's true. And there, I know you think you know we're going to be friends for life and we're going to trust each other for life. But that's a really hard thing to say when you're a teenager, because you don't know where you're going to study, you don't know where you're going to go, and things like that. So appreciate it for what it is now, but keep the options open in the friendships that you have. And some friendships will be for life. Different people are wired differently, but some friendships will be for life. You know. So if I hog the microphone a little bit, that's my introductory comment. I don't know what you guys think.
What do you think of what she said? Did you let her?
I've actually personally experienced that, unfortunately, but what he said, like, you can't give to like more than they're offering. Like you can't give them more trust than they deserve, and you gotta watch that you don't, because it's easy to, like, especially if you're that kind of person that just trusts easy, you gotta watch that you don't overdo it. And I agree totally. Like, that's some good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Maybe can I add a comment? It's just, and I don't mean to be gender biased here or anything, but from experience is that guys tend to mean what they say and ladies tend to hear what they want. So just, if I may give some advice for the ladies, and I know I'm stereotyping badly, okay? But for the ladies, you know, guys generally mean what they say, unless they're like a player and they evil and devious, in which case, you know, check and run. But most guys they mean what they say. And so if they say they like you, they mean they like you. They're not saying, I want to marry you. They just mean, I like you. Yeah. So, you know, the first time a guy says, I like you, don't go, maybe he wants to marry me. It's not what he means. He means he likes you.
And they're like that, man.
And
they're
I know,
like that, these people.
No. But I know it can work the other way too. Particularly, like for guys, if you think, this is the one, and she goes, yeah, okay, you know, we can go for coffee. You go, yes, I'm in. You're not. You're going for coffee.
Yeah.
And then you must bring your A game. And you must build trust and earn trust. And the way you build trust and earn trust is by being reliable, being interested, and communicating honestly and openly.
Yeah. Malika.
I have a question
Yes.
around that, because then how you're speaking to the ladies and you're saying this, and it's great, but then how, as the ladies, can we suss out the players, because they're going to come across as believable? So then how do we say, okay, no, this is a red flag, or this guy is showing red flags?
So I think if you've got a chick in your heart or a question in your mind, always take a friend with. And if they stay committed and invested, and now some guys are prepared to play the long game. Let's be honest, okay? But make it a little hard, make them work a little bit, and put up your roadblocks. And you say, well, you know, I'm not allowed to go out unless you come and meet my father, or something like that. And I know culturally that can become even more complicated, but, you know, use your dad if you can in that space. So again, with the player, I think the other thing is if they keep pushing beyond where you're comfortable, that's like a massive red light. Then you need to walk away or put the brakes on and just say, you're pushing now, stop. And then watch the reaction. I think that's the best I can do now.
Yeah. No, I've had girls that have done that, and you're like, oh no, this restaurant, I budgeted so much. No, I wasn't expecting this one. Now you gotta do calculations again. And sometimes the friends, and this is a term, they call them the gatekeepers. You can just see this friend is just being a hard one. She's just blocking, and you're like, you know, the flirting is going well here, but you kind of like, you're shielding my game. And then eventually they say those 3 words, Chomi, we have to go. You're like, really? Like, are we really doing this? But what you're saying is true. If the barrier to entry is much higher, much more commitment is going to be needed. And I definitely do see that if the bar is low, and a lot of people set it low, it's easy to jump. And you find yourself in crazy situations that you shouldn't be. I know as a church guy that comes to church, listen, you say the right things, speak a bit of tongues, you know what I'm saying, put your hand up in worship, and you are premium. You are husband material. And I know there are people in the studio looking at me funny here, guys. You can't see it now, but it's true. It's true. It's easy to play the game. But if you have those checks and balances, I think, that you have personally with God, that personal covenant you have with Him, Lord, if He's the right one, He should be able to do A, B, C, D, F, G. I think it would work. What do you think, Ru?
I was thinking about something just now. I wanna ask. There's this like thing that girls tell, like, whenever I'm talking with my friends about guys, right? We always we'll talk about a specific person and they'll say like, oh my gosh, I can just see the Jesus in him, that kind of thing. That I feel like that's just like a
Oh my God.
it's kind of like weird.
Well, I think, I would always go, what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
You know,
no, yeah.
do you really see that they're a godly person, or just they're pushing the right buttons and
No,
that's
yeah,
a way to say
exactly. They're pushing the right buttons, and it's like you see that that's the kind of person that but you don't actually know. Like, you don't actually you just see that they're ways worshiping in the church, and they go to church and they go to cell, whatever. But like, if you're not actually if you don't actually have Jesus in you, you can't actually see that that's the true, that's truly Jesus in that person, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like what do you guys think about that?
So look, I think you want to be able to see that someone's godly and that it's the real deal,
Yeah.
And then for me, that's a tick in the right box. The person is godly, they in the right places, doing the right things. And obviously, if you get to know them and you're in the friendship circles, you discover how sincere that is. But there's also for sure guys who come to church with agendas. And so it's the consistency over time, I think, is the thing.
Yeah.
But that is a box I'd like to have ticked, I can actually see Jesus in them, in maybe a bit, or something like that. I think it's a minimum on some levels, yeah.
Well, there's seeing Jesus in them, and then there's experiencing Jesus in them.
Oh, good one.
Because I was that church guy. I grew up in church. I know how to look very Jesus-y, while being dodged at the same time. And I did that for a very long time, and it was a very weird space, because while you were repenting, you weren't actually repenting at all. You were just, hey Lord, hey, I'm sorry, we'll try again next week, and you're doing the same thing, and it's kind of like that repentance that doesn't change the mind. You're just saying I'm sorry, and I attracted a lot of great Christian girls who said that, like, wow, man, your passion for God is so contagious. But what I realized is, if you spend a lot of time with people, it's the subtle nuances. It's the small jokes that they would mention. Yeah. It's the stuff that they would say.
There's a consistency.
There's a consistency. And sometimes it does develop over time. And you see it in character, how they treat people. And some of that stuff is very hard to find out. But one thing I would suggest, their friends will tell everything. Look at their circle.
Who they hang out with.
Yeah, who they hang out with, what they tolerate, the environments that they're in. I
think that's been true in my experience as well. Where if there is a group of godly men, you can listen to what they talk about. They don't objectify people. They don't do dodgy discussions. They hold the ground in that space. So, yeah.
Well, we're out of time. We tell them to round up. All right. Rejection. It's crazy. We all experience it. Neil mentioned something about forgiveness. If you don't forgive, it'll come back. And friendships as
Keep on forgiving.
and keep on forgiving. It is a process, and your heart can be made whole together again. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I want to know. We'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.